Hello everyone, welcome to the Play Like a Watt Pro series, episode 4. Today we're going to cover two topics. The first of which is going to be how you can chase an enemy vehicle around an obstacle when you're slower than them, and how not to get kited around. The second topic is going to be how you can time your shots to get easier penetrations on tanks like the Object 279E and the Object 268V4. So let's just get right into it. I have Tengu helping me. Tengu is a clanmate of mine, and he sometimes streams, so I'll leave a link to his Twitch in the description for helping me out. So basically, I told Tengu to head over to this rock right over here. There he is. And I'm going to try to chase him around this rock. Now, first I just want to show you I can't catch him. If I just go around and try to chase him without thinking through what I am doing, there's nothing I can do about it. I can't really catch him unless he makes a mistake, like he did there a little bit. So now I'm going to show you what you should do instead of just chasing them around. What you need to do is deliberately choose the side of the obstacle that you're going to go to. Here, I fake like I'm going left, and then I go right. Now, faking is one tip. You can fake to which side you're going to go to. But the more important tip is you should always push the side of the obstacle that their hull is facing. So in this case, his hull was facing this direction, so I want to push this direction because then it forces him to turn all the way around and drive away. Whereas if I push this way, all he has to do is drive forward, and obviously you're a lot quicker going forward than backwards. So here you can see he can't get away from me. I get a free shot in. I'm just using HE to save credits basically. I think that's all I have to show for this replay actually. Let me move on to the next replay where I show a slightly different scenario. Okay, so in this next scenario, we're going to have a slow tank chasing a fast tank once again, but this time it's going to be around a larger obstacle that you can't just pick the side where their hull is facing and catch them. There's no chance of you catching them at all because the obstacle is just too large. So here I'm just showing you there's nothing I can do to catch Tengu here. It's literally impossible. If I chase him around, I'll just be wasting time. And a lot of these situations happen at the end game of a random battle. So for example, when there's 2 minutes left and it's a 1 versus 1. So if you're just trying to chase them, you have no hope of winning. There's nothing you can do. So what should you do instead in these situations? Well, you have to get unspotted. Get out of proxy range first. So you'll see that's what I do. I back up until I see this circle on my minimap. I see that he's out of this circle. If you don't have this circle on your minimap, I would really recommend you have it because it's useful for situations like this. And you can find it in your settings under General, and I believe it's show the proximity spotting circle. This setting here, you just check that. So have that on. So what do you do once you're unspotted? Well, let me actually show you something first. Once you're unspotted, you can either go right or left, but you need to keep out of the proximity spotting circle, otherwise it won't work. And the goal is you stay out of their spotting range so that you can surprise them from one of the two sides. That way they can't react, because if you give them information about where you are, they're going to have plenty of time to react and get around to the opposite side of the building to escape. But I want to show you something very important that I did here. I fake like I'm going left while I'm still spotted but out of proxy range. So I pretend I'm going left. So now he thinks I'm going left. But I know Tengu. Tengu is a smart player. He's incorrect, so of course he's a good player. So what I do is I double fake him. He thinks that I am gonna fake him because it was pretty obvious by me driving this way that I'm not gonna go this way, which sounds counterintuitive. But if you know your opponent, then you can kind of play mind games with them about which side of the building you're gonna go on. But because I know Tengu, he's gonna think that I'm gonna double fake and go back around the right side. So I just decided to double fake him and just continue going on this side. And as you can see, I don't know if I was actually right or not, but the point is I catch him out and I get a free shot in. And so if you just repeat this process over and over, you can actually slowly catch a faster tank and outplay them. And there's not much they can really do about it unless they have somewhere to run once they get unlit. So here once again I'm getting unlit and I'm gonna try to pick a side. One thing to keep in mind while you're doing this is you want to try not to destroy obstacles that they might hear so that they can predict which side you're coming from. On this particular example on Ensk, it's almost impossible not to break stuff. But what you see happening here is I didn't even go around a side. Now this is like a very advanced tactic. I wouldn't really recommend this, but if you're playing against a very good player, they know that you're gonna come around from one of the sides, and so the worst thing that they can do in this situation is just sit there and try to react because they're gonna be too slow. So what they have to do in order to counter you is pick one of the two sides and just poke it and try to hope that they pick the right side correctly. So in this case, Tengu thinks I'm probably coming this way, so instead of just sitting here and waiting to react, which he'll be too slow to do, he decides to preemptively push out this side and try to assume that I'm coming this way. Now as you can see, I just sat here, which is kind of a... it's just like... it's really not something that I would recommend doing, but if you're playing against a very good player, it can actually work because they'll be... you know that they'll be pushing out one of the sides because they know that's the correct play to do. So it actually works out for me here. Okay, let me show you, I think, is this the end of the replay? I think I show one more example. So let's see. I bait like I'm going left, and now I start going right, and just pay attention to the spotting circle on the minimap. At no point am I letting this blue line reach right here above the building, because if he's hugging the building, he'll proxy spot me and he'll know which way I'm coming from. And there, I get a free shot in. Alright, I think that's all I have to show for this tip. So let's move on to how to pen Object 279Es and V4s by timing your shots correctly. Okay, so for this next lesson, we're talking about how to time your shots so that you can pen a tank like a 279E or a V4. So let's start with the 279E. With the 279E, when it lurches forward and then halts, its hull will tilt down temporarily. It's a really thin opportunity, but during that opportunity, if you have low pen and you're not able to normally pen the 279E's hull, this will greatly increase your chance of penning him. So in order to demonstrate that, I'm just going to have Flare, which by the way, thank you Flare for helping me out with this video. He's going to fire 15 times at me while I'm not moving at all. And we're going to see how many penetrate. As you can see, the reticle is yellow. This is a Leo with standard ammo. So it's a very low chance to penetrate. Well, he's shooting in roughly the same place every time. And as you're going to see, after we get through all these shells, he only pens 1 out of 15. Now obviously in a random battle, if you're a Leo and you have standard ammo, don't even go for this shot. Just go for his cupola. But this is just for an example. For example, if you have like 310 millimeters of penetration, then it's a valid strategy to try to wait for his hull to lurch forward in order to shoot him while his hull is less angled. So let me just speed forward through these 15 shells. So now I'm lurching back and forward. He actually didn't pen any of the first 15, even though he did have a chance to pen it, which was a yellow reticle. I remembered it being one penetration, but I guess I was just remembering wrong. But as you can see, when I'm lurching backwards and forwards, the pen indicator temporarily becomes yellow on a greater area of the hull. And that's because the effective armor thickness of the hull is going down. So as you can see, he actually already penned 1. And we'll see how many he pens out of 15. See, that was a well-timed shot right there. And he aimed in the correct place. You want to aim right here when the 279E is directly facing right onto you. So you want to shoot right now. If you were to look at the reticle, I think it might even be close to green right here. It's a really high chance to penetrate, even with a standard ammo of a Leo 1, which is 278 millimeters of penetration. Some of these shots aren't timed perfectly, which is understandable because it's really hard to time it perfectly. But if you get it down correctly, then it's very useful. And there you can see he's already penned me 4 times, and remember he penned 0, just shooting at my hull regularly. And there he pens me 5 times, so that just shows the power of this tip. So now let's move on to another example where I'm in a TVP shooting at a V4. So, one thing that I forgot to mention in the last replay is if you're the one who's in the 279E and you're facing off against an opponent who has around 290 penetration or less, they have almost no chance of penning your frontal hull. So you might see commonly that people will try to wiggle their hull and lurch back and forward to try to get them to bounce. If you're facing against an opponent with 290 penetration or less in a 279E, literally you should be sitting still at all times. You should not be moving unless they start aiming at your cupolas, because by moving backwards and forwards, all you're doing is letting them have an opportunity to pen you, potentially. And the same goes for if you're in an Object 268V4. If you have your lower plate covered and all they can see is your upper plate, don't wiggle upward, don't move forwards and backwards, because all you're doing is allowing them to pen your upper plate. So here in this example, Flare is around 70 meters away from me, or he might come a little bit more forward, I'm not sure. By the way, in both of these examples we controlled for distance, so it wasn't like during the lurching period of the test we got closer together or something. The distance was the same for every example. Here I'm going to be shooting Flare while he's just sitting here completely still. I'm going to shoot his upper plate and we'll see how many I penetrate out of 8 shots. Trying to line him up correctly. There we go. That's perfect. So I pen 1 out of 4 here. And the reason I picked this angle is because I know that this is around a 30% chance to pen or so. And so you'll see the difference in the results once we go over the lurching test. So as you can see, I only penned 1 out of 8 shells. It's probably even lower chance to pen than 30%, to be honest. Especially the fact that I only penned 1 out of 8. But next we're gonna see what happens when he lurches back and forward and I time my shots correctly. Oh, I actually fired 3 clips. I didn't even know that. Okay, so I'll go 2 for 12. I think he lurches now. So pay attention to how I time this. I time it right for when he's at the lowest portion of his movement. And as you see, I go 3 for 4, and one of those shots hit his gun. If I didn't hit his gun, I would have went 4 for 4 there. And as you can see, as you might have seen, at the bottom of his lurch, my reticle actually turns green. I use the 279E and the V4 for these demonstrations because they're the most applicable tanks that you can do this for. But this does work in other tanks as well. Like, for example, there are tanks that can pen the mouse's upper hull if you have like 340 penetration. And if the mouse lurches forward, then you can pen the upper hull if he's facing towards you a lot easier. So just keep that in mind regardless of what tank you're playing. As long as it has some armor, this tip might be useful to you. It's even useful in a lot of tanks when you're sniping their cupolas, because the cupolas sometimes, especially if you're shooting up at the cupolas, the V4 is not a good example. You can pen this cupola from any angle, but for example a 277, if you're aiming at his cupola and he's just sitting still, you have a lower chance to pen it than if he's lurching forward and you're timing your shots correctly to hit the cupola, because you're shooting more at a downwards angle at the cupola, and so it has a higher chance to pen. I think that's all for this video, so thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.